I'm going to test this now, so we should be going live. We should be live. I am just going to bring it up on YouTube. I'm going to start recording the Zoom as well. People, you may hear us. If you hear us, please type yes.
Will I see those messages or just you?
It'll just be me, because it's going to YouTube, but I will be telling you what the messages are.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right, I'm just trying to get to my channel. Guys, we are nearly ready to get rolling, and then everything will be great. Right, okay, why can't I get to my channel?
Uh-oh. YouTube, you've got to find it.
Okay, now apparently it is live. I think there is just a delay on it, that's all.
Is there any way that someone could check for you?
I'm checking.
Cool.
So it is saying, guys, if you can hear us and see us, please just type. Ooh. Oh, yep. People are messaging. We are getting people into the room now. Oh, I've got emails going on galore. Right, okay. Yeah, I am now live. It's saying
we're live.
We are live.
We'll just give I got social anxiety. I got social. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. We all guessed that. We all saw completely through that. No. Right. I'm going to close my emails and stuff down, so there won't be any beeps and boops and everything like that.
This.
I do like how we can do all this stuff, you know, online and everything. So we've got quite a few people now in the live chat. Guys, if you do have any questions, please do stick them into the live chat, and we will get round to as many as we possibly can. We're going to be on live, I suppose, for about an hour. It may go over. In fact, I'd probably bet it will do. I'm just going to mute everything.
Well, I think maybe some of my colleagues and students are also watching today, this morning, or this evening, depending where you are. So welcome to this live chat. It's non-scripted, so it's just going to be fluid. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, guys, please, you do need to sub to the channel to ask a question. So I've been quite sneaky there. But if you do have a question, please just stick it in the chat for us. And hopefully I'll see these live. Yep, the chat is working just fine. And we are going to get going in just 1 minute. How are you doing, Agatha? We have people from all over today. We've got 2 likes already. We've got 15 people actually in there now. Just give it a couple of minutes, because we do have a lot of people. We had about 100 or so people register. So we're just going to wait for everyone else to sort of come in to make sure. Oh, that's me putting the questions there. I was going to go surprise. Okay, I'm going to move out of this. It's just knowing what windows I can minimize, which without causing problems. This is why I need a multi-monitor setup. This is all fabulous. Hi guys, how are we all doing? Cool. It's weird doing it straight onto YouTube as opposed to onto Zoom. So hopefully this is going to make a better recording anyway. So I will be recording this and I will be uploading this as well. I need to move that screen off. If not, I'll get confused because I'm watching us and I'm watching a delay. So I'm going to watch the chat only. Okay, we'll just give it 2 minutes and then we will get cracking. We've got quite a few people now watching. Guys, please do put in the chat where you are, where you're from. And your turn-ons, and just put who you are and where you are in the world as well, because it's I found a nice bracelet. Look at that. I don't wear bracelets. I found this on the bus the other day. It's a Swarovski bracelet. I've registered it as lost with the TfL, that's the Transport for London. They said, yeah, just keep it for now. We'll contact you if you get anyone who claims it. So I've just been wearing it. Of course, my life's quite empty. Right. Okay, we've got more and more people joining. We're just going to give it 2 minutes and then we are going to get rolling. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Tom is somebody who I've been watching online for a long time. A long time. Since the beginning of my hypnosis career, which was about 18 years, I think. about 18 years.
Did you see this? Did you get this that I sent you?
I did. I actually posted
Can you believe that?
I don't know. Let me just post that into... Oh, from Kent. Hi, Paul. How you doing today? Yeah, I did. You know, I posted that into Facebook onto Meetup, and I think...
Oh, okay.
Facebook, yeah. Just saying all the... In fact, let me put it into the chat as well, because it is quite good. I have been on one TV show where I wasn't meant to be on it. I was on a program called Loose Women, which is like The View in America. And basically, what happened was somebody basically Googled remove negative memories, because that's the thing I really go, because I do IEMT. It's like EMDR, you know, it's to help reprocess memory. And so somebody just did a bit of research by basically typing in remove negative memories, and I come up a lot. And so they said, so today we're talking about, should you remove negative memories? There is a scientist called Matt Kendall. He's not a scientist, he's a hypnotherapist called Matt Kendall, who says it's able to remove. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even get asked about this. And I had people contacting me going, have you been on Loose Women? Which I thought was quite an accusation. And then I found it on the iPlay, which is the repeat system. And so I've edited it, I've clipped it up and I use it, but I got people contacting me, you know, through there I had people come and see me from all over the UK for that service. So I was like, fine. It's not actually come out like I want it. Oh, I can't put all the shows in at once because there's far too many.
Oh, hey, that's fine. That's okay. We don't need to.
Hi, Wanda from Essex.
I just sent it to you just because, just looking back, I mean, it's just kind of mind blowing to think that's just that could all happen, you know. Of course, it was only 38 years, but still.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's get cracking into this now. People have had the chance to join in. I'll give you, I don't even know how to introduce you, to be perfectly honest. So about 17, 18 years ago, I went to a networking event. And I was running a print and design studio at the time. I had no interest in hypnosis or anything. I had a passing interest. I'd seen Paul McKenna and stuff on TV, and Darren Brown, who I'm sure who I'm seeing tomorrow night actually in Bristol. And I was really interested in sort of, you know, obviously when you don't know anything about it, it just looks like magic. And obviously a lot of magicians do hypnosis and stuff as well, you know. And so I went to this networking event and I met a hypnotherapist, and he said, do you want to be hypnotized for £10? And I was like, yes, I do. So I went along, not the same day, I went along like a few days later to his little office and he hypnotized me. He was a very basic, you know, had a bit of a chat about what it was. I didn't even know I had any problems. He found some, cost me a lot of money. And it was just a very kind of scripted hypnosis session. He was a nice guy, you know, he sort of did well, but it was a very standard scripted, you know, I didn't know about hypnosis scripts, you know, an induction, a deepener, an intervention, then an awakening, you know, the usual kind of 4-step process. And after about 4 or 5 sessions, he said to me, I think you should train to be a hypnotherapist. And I said, okay, fine. I had no desire to kind of do so. But I, like most people, I turned to, you know, Dr. YouTube. And I started doing Googling. And I basically just Googled hypnotherapist or hypnotherapy or something, I don't know. And, you know, you're quite a prolific content producer of all, you know, your trainings, your TV appearances. And so I consumed so much of your stuff. Now, you're quite energetic, shall we say? And usually, because, you know, here in Britain, it's, oh God, much more reserved. Like, if you want to close your eyes, please do so. And usually that type of enthusiasm would kind of annoy me. Well, you didn't. And I really liked it because of your passion. It was quite clearly, you're able to see your passion for hypnosis. And I started watching emotional replacement therapy and shock inductions, and I bought some of your products and I started using them because I started doing trainings in different places. But I started using, you know, your emotional replacement therapy, which I will get into a little bit today. And it worked so well. And I was like, what is this? What is this craziness, you know? And then I was doing, because I never did shock inductions, but obviously I got your DVD and I did it. And I was shocked when it works, so I was like, well, hopefully I'll get them back out. It's a bit crazy. And then I've just been constantly watching you for a long time. I check in on you sort of every now and again. And I saw that you came to my hometown of York, not that, a few years ago now. So I saw your updates from there. I've seen, obviously, your personal trials and tribulations, everything you sort of been through, all of those things. And I reached out to you a few weeks ago to say, I do these interviews with people just because I like interviewing therapists. I like interviewing hypnotherapists. Obviously, I'm very much interested in IEMT, and I do some hypnosis. To be honest, since the pandemic, I've worked everything online, and I've not done any hypnosis online. I know people do, but I haven't. But Tom is quite simply, one of the best known hypnotherapists and hypnotists in the world. I know you did an awful lot of stuff with Orman McGill. You've done trainings all over the world. You've got more certifications than we have time to mention. You've got a lot of celebrity clients. You've been sort of on the cutting edge and the pioneer of hypnosis with, scientific hypnosis, which, we'll talk about today a bit, and also the ERT, emotional replacement therapy, and also obviously going to the scientific hypnosis. I do like it when you do is it neurological feedback sensors is called with the bands?
Yeah, neurofeedback, electroencephalograph, brainwave frequency monitoring, that stuff. Yeah.
And I know that you've got a strong history in like medical hypnosis, and you have a lot to do with like the medical fraternities over in America. So today is just a chat. Now, I'm sure we've got a lot of hypnotherapists and hypnotists watching, so you'll get a lot out of this, and just people in general, just general watching, you get an awful lot as well. You've been on so many TV shows as well, and podcasts and radio hypnosis on radio. I think it's quite novel. Luckily there's cameras there. If not, it'd be a bit right, But you've worked with so many well-known people. I'm going to post all this rather than try and read through it, because we've only got an hour, and that will take longer than an hour to sort of go through everything. But I do have one leading question before we kind of get into everything of today's. Sure. Why have you done all this out of all the hypnotherapists in America? And there must be tens and tens of thousands. You must have qualified tens and tens of thousands. How come you're the one that's kind of risen to the top in that sense and been on all of these TV shows, the basketball halftime, the radio shows? How is it your work ethic? Is it your natural talent? Is it your persistence with people? What is it that's allowed you to get to where you are today?
I'd probably sum it up by saying I got out of a comfort zone. And when you think about that, most people who train in hypnotherapy, they just do the traditional advertising and marketing. I mean, years ago, before there was the internet and I was certified, I put ads in the telephone book. There was actually telephone books, and I spent thousands of dollars and no reactions because it was all passive. So I kind of thought out of the realm of traditional marketing and advertising. And, and that's how I really started to branch out. I wanted to take hypnosis to the outer limits. I didn't want to just be in a little niche, because hypnosis is not a little niche. Hypnosis is everywhere. It's in the medical field, whether you want to believe it or not. Surgeons are going into a state of fixation, focus, concentration. They're influencing patients, which is what hypnosis is, a form of influence. And so the funny thing is, when I went to my school, I was trained at a school in Southern California called HMI. Now, I didn't pay for the course. I was in between record company gigs because I was a marketing guy in the record business and a musician for many years. And I have a music degree in college on the flute. Wow. But my brother said there was an opening in this hypnotism school for a cameraman to make $10 an hour credit by videotaping these different hypnotherapists doing case histories and training courses. Now, the founder of that organization was a guy named John Kappas. And I'm sure a lot of people know about the Hypnosis Motivation Institute. They've been around for years. But anyway, I became the cameraman in between gigs, working for $10 an hour credit for a year until I earned enough credits, $1,800 to go through this course. I think the course now is about 25 to 30 grand. Wow. But anyway, what was interesting about it, as I was focusing in the camera going into a visual fixation, another form of lowering brainwave activity and frequencies, tuning in, hypnosis, fixation. I was learning as I was observing these trainers. But these trainer cats, one was Alan True, Bud Janowitz, Elizabeth Thompson, I still remember their names. They were people that were in the field of hypnosis for 20 and 30 years. They weren't a textbook trainer. Yeah. We're kind of in the world of let's certify trainers, and we don't give a damn if they have experience or not. Let's make an income giving out these certifications by creating a group of trainers that are not based on living experience. They're based on a methodology they learned in some kind of course. So these guys were living in the field of hypnotism. So after about a year of doing that, I went through the program, and somehow I was always fascinated in hypnosis. I was fascinated in the paranormal altered realities, and hypnosis was one of those. So I embraced it. And as I embraced it, I said to myself, you know, I think I can become really good at this. And I think if I keep practicing, and if I keep going beyond what I learned into creating through practice, then I can become excellent at it. So I went through the course. I did a residency for a number of years out of the institute. Then I started my private practice. But how I branched out, this is real cool. I was working with a guy that worked at a radio station in Southern California. He had an eating disorder. Check this out. His parents, he had a brother. So when he was a kid, his parents would eat steak and lobster and all this fine food, but they would give them like hot dogs and hamburgers. So he always saw his folks eating all this food that he couldn't eat. Deprivation, deprivation, frustration, and denial. So he asked if I could help him. So I did 2 sessions, 2 or 3. I do short-term stuff really. And I helped him overcome this resentment he had towards his parents, this anger. Also, he had become very heavy because he was binging on a lot of food that he missed out on as a kid. So he actually got me on my first radio show. He calls me one day and he says, Tom, I got you on this new morning show called the Kevin and Bean Morning Show on K-Rock Radio. This is rock radio. Okay. I'm going on rock radio. So I said, cool, man. You know, I never did radio. So I'm driving out there and I'm thinking about these ideas because I wanted to think of bits to do. See, most of these people don't know anything about hypnosis. So you've got to come in with a set of ideas for them, you know? Yeah. So I'm driving out and I'm listening to the radio station, and man, I tune it on and they're saying, we got this quack hypnotist coming out, you know, and hypnosis, it's like magic and psychic, it's a bunch of bullshit, excuse the expression. And we're gonna roast this guy. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going into the slaughterhouse. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. The Roman Coliseum. I'm coming out in front of these gladiators ready to cut me in pieces. So I thought to myself, and I said, well, screw it. I'm not gonna have them create fear in me. I'm just gonna go out and go for greatness. Take no prisoners. So I went in, I did the show. I hypnotized some of the people working on the show, showed some amazing things, made them all believers, tied in the science of hypnosis, because, you know, I love showing the creativity of the subconscious mind. My motivation is helping people change their lives. So I use that platform to entertain, educate, and inspire people to change. And then that skyrocketed me over, man. I did that show. I was on a number of times a year for 10 years on that show. Wow. And then that triggered me into television. You want to know how? What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
Okay. So I get a call one day from a guy named Bruce Nash. Now, Bruce Nash owned Nash Entertainment, and he just did a whole series that really pissed off a lot of magicians. In fact, his life was in danger. It was called Magician Secrets Revealed. Did you ever see that series?
Yes, yeah, I know.
So that was Bruce Nash. So he calls me to come in to meet with him. And in the meantime, I was doing all these live shows. I was doing living room hypnosis. I was doing hypnosis shows in churches and temples and everywhere possible. I went out there because I figured, hey, if I go out there and I say I'm Tom Silver and I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm not going out there as just a stage entertainer. I'm going out there as a clinical demonstrator of the fine arts of hypnosis. Boy, that sounded pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, that sounded really good. So I started doing all these shows and I started recording everything. Can you believe it? I've got the first hypnotism show I ever did, the very first one in like 1986, where my ex-wife threw me out of the car because I was too afraid to go in and try hypnosis in some living room with all these families and friends, you know. That's a whole different story. But anyway, there's way too many. So anyway, I went in and I brought in some footage of my living room hypnosis shows, or the shows where I hypnotized the rabbi's son's wife and did some bits in a temple. And I made a little combination of routines, live routines to show them. And I told them my concept. I said, I want to be the first hypnotist to take hypnosis out into the real world. I think now you call it street hypnosis.
Yes, but there's a lot of that
this was going on in 1998, and there was no street hypnosis then. So I gave him the idea, and I came up with a bunch of bits and routines at the beach, at bowling alleys, supermarkets, restaurants, barbershops. And so he liked the ideas. So he set up a meeting with me and a guy named Ted Harbert, who was his partner. Ted was the ex-president of ABC Television, who was the CEO and president of the E Channel, Entertainment Channel.
Yes,
he's probably still a big wig. So they set me up with a guy named Les Moonves, and Les was the president at that time of CBS Television. So here, this little hypnotist guy gets this interview with the president of CBS Television in his office in Beverly Hills. So I go in and I meet Ted Harbert, and I already make a compilation of different little reality hypnosis that I did to sell him on the concept. And Ted Harbert meets me there before Bruce Nash, and we're in a little waiting room. So Harbert says to me, he goes, Ted Harbert says, Moonves and I are like the closest of friends. He goes, if you can hypnotize me and have me do something crazy, he goes, it might sell the show. I said, okay. So I started working with him, and I did a shock induction, man. I threw off his conscious, overstimulated the central nervous system, amplified the sympathetic nervous system, and he dropped like a dead fly into hypnosis. Hear all that medical terms I threw in. So he just dropped down, and I said, wow, man, I got this cat under. So I decided, well, I'm going to test him to see if I can create illusion or hallucination. Yeah, because that's a key aspect of true controlled or triggered somnambulism without conscious cognitive interference. So he told me before I hypnotized him that he loved Frank Sinatra. So I said, what the hell? I said, when I count to 3, you're Frank Sinatra. I'm the head of your fan club or something. I said, and you're gonna, when I count to 3, you're gonna open your eyes and you're gonna sing me one of your favorite songs, because you are Frank Sinatra in every way. You live, you feel, you breathe. You are Frank Sinatra. So then I accessed them out of hypnosis. And as soon as I did, he opened his eyes, he looked at me, and I was wondering what's he gonna do now? You know, all of a sudden he starts singing this song, and he's looking at me like there's love in his eyes, you know, and this is the ex-president, and he's singing night and day this Frank Sinatra song, and he's singing it really good, really good. So then when he's, after a minute or so of him singing, I said, Frank, it's so great to meet you. I went and shook his hand, and I just dropped him in. I just accessed him back down real quick, unexpectedly. So then I tried one more. I said, when I count to 3, you'll open your eyes. Back in those days, I'd say you'll wake up out of hypnosis. I don't use those words because I think some words we use are confusing to the general public. So I said, when I count to 3, you're gonna open your eyes, and you're Bill Clinton. You're just in that hotel room with this lady, and you're having her touch your private parts, and you're gonna talk about this thing because the big scandal, it was a scandal going on right then. So I said, okay, 1, 2, 3, eyes open. I said, President Clinton, how you doing? And I spoke with a little Southern accent, and he starts talking to me. You know, I'm doing fine, but this scandal thing, you know, she touched my private part, but you know, and he's like doing all this stuff. So I just quickly grab him in the shoulder, and I tug his hand, and I drop him back down. I say, when I count to 5, you'll come out of hypnosis. You will not remember anything that occurred. Very next time, I just give a pull on your hand. Say the word sleep, you'll drop instantly, automatically, out like a light into hypnosis quickly. So then I took him out of hypnosis, and he said, well, was I any good? I said, I don't Not really, but I said, well, let's go up and have that meeting. So we go upstairs. Bruce Nash is there. Now, Les Moonves, it's like this is his office. It was like I went into a Las Vegas penthouse. The guy had a bar. He had couches and lounges. I mean, they must have been paying that sucker a ton of dough, you know? So I go in there, and there's Les Moonves with all his VPs, all his yes people, you know? Yes, Les. Yes, Mr. Moonves. You know how that works, your entourage. So we talk about the concept of doing a live reality hypnosis show where we're hypnotizing people, not on a stage, but out there in the real world. And he liked the idea. I showed him some of my stage shows, living room hypnosis and that stuff, which was really great stuff because it was real and it was raw. It was live, raw stuff. So then after that, I look at Ted Harbert and I kind of shake my head. Yeah, I'm ready to drop him down. So I say, Ted, thanks for inviting me here to meet Mr. Moonves. I shake his hand and I throw him down, and he's on my lap. He's like a dead guy on my lap. So then I say, okay, on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes, and the guy right in front of you is the leader, head of your fan club. Just what I did down below. Yeah, because I already tested it. He sang the guy a song. There was love in his eyes. He didn't break character. Everyone was watching to see if he was acting, and it was real. Then I turned him into Bill Clinton. He started doing the things. I dropped him back down. I said, if you want, I'll leave him with Bill Clinton. He'll go up and down to every office, and he'll talk to everyone. He'll stay as Bill Clinton the entire day if you like. So he said, no, that's not necessary. Dropped him back down, woke him up. Amnesia occurred. Didn't remember a thing. I went home. 2 hours later, I got called, and they said, Les Moonves bought the show. You sold the show.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason I think I sold the show is most people, and you guys listening, you'll agree to this. So many people out there in the real world think hypnosis is an act. They think it's fake and not legit. You know what I mean? But when he saw his best, closest friend, a top executive, doing these creative, wild things, it made him a believer. So that's how I got my first show.
And moving it into TV, because I don't know what it's like in America, but there's quite strict laws here in the UK about what you can and cannot show with hypnosis. And when they show like inductions, it's all kind of done like very cinematically, and you hear little bits. You're seeing like suggestibility tests and kind of stuff like that. And I don't think, apart from until Derren Brown came along, I don't think they've ever done any form of shock, induction. For people who are listening who don't know what a shock induction is, it's where you're going into some like a handshake, or you're shaking somebody and they literally drop in. Because with normal hypnosis, say that if you're going for a clinical hypnotherapy session, they may take 10, 15 minutes of gentle, an induction and a deepener as you're getting deeper, and that kind of thing. A shock induction is straight away, then it takes you into a very deep state of hypnosis. So were there any sort of issues with showing kind of, I suppose the inductions you do are more rapid inductions anyway. So I think that the whole problem is that they can't do a full induction in case the people watching at home get hypnotized and then stuck in hypnosis for the rest of their lives. I think that's the thing about it. But with a shock induction, that's not likely to happen. So I don't know what the laws are like in the US.
Well, let me explain that. In the US, the FCC was very strict. In fact, you guys in the UK and in Scotland, you had Benny Hill. You used to do all these like R-rated stuff that was never allowed in America. Right. I mean, when I watch Still Standing, that Scottish TV comedy series, they say words relating to men's genitals that we just hadn't said. And I don't think they would still say that on broadcast. It wouldn't be allowed. Right. But maybe on Showtime or whatever. But there was always strong FCC rules and regulations about showing a hypnosis process. Because let's face it, if you showed a full process on television, you will have people go out. You will have a percentage of the people who are watching drop on the floor, maybe hit their head. You might have somebody driving their car. I remember when I was doing a radio show, we hypnotized all of Los Angeles 2 times on the radio. And I knew that I was probably breaking some FCC rules, and that anything could happen. Anyone could claim a lawsuit that they went out and got in a car wreck. But I remember telling everyone, okay, we're going to hypnotize you. Everyone that's listening, we're going to hypnotize you and have a really good day. And if you don't want, I said, pull over to the sides of the road. And if you don't want to be hypnotized, turn off the radio. Now, you tell someone to turn it off, they're going to turn it on. Law of reverse reaction. Tell you not to do something, you want to do it. We're all a little bit rebellious. Anyway, so I did that. But when you think about it, almost every TV show I didn't play the game and bullshit people. I said on TV, I already pre-hypnotized this person. So it'll be easy for them to go back into hypnosis through a post-hypnotic suggestion. And I think the damage we do is as television hypnotists is we do something rapid and people out there think, well, that's the norm. Anyone can come up to you on the street and touch on the shoulder and you're going to drop on the ground and give them your wallet, your rings and your credit cards. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
So I always thought it was important to say I've already preconditioned that person. But during my preconditioning, I didn't do a passive induction. I call them techniques. I don't even like the word induction. If you ever look up the word induction, that's a ceremony to give an award to someone to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, inducted into the military. So really, the word induction, which we've been brainwashed to think is what we do, and that is not a correct word. We are doing methods, processes, techniques, and mental and physical exercises to bypass the cognitive resistant mind and to tap in and tune in with the subconscious biocomputer hard drive that we call the subconscious mind. So when I used to always say that, and I didn't say that on TV, what I just told you, but when I said I've already worked with the person and I said that I've already got them preconditioned, so it'll be very easy for them to access that state we call hypnosis. I always showed a shock induction. You know why? Because TV gets bored real quick. And do you think people watching want to hear this? And now close your eyes, feel your lower jaw dropping down. You know, they don't want to hear something that's going to put them to sleep. You've got to stimulate their concentration. And shock inductions on TV were so beautiful because it captured the audience. It captured the live audience. It captured the viewing audience. And then we showed the creativity or the change under hypnosis, and then taking them out of hypnosis, and then their reactions, or them coming back on the show to see if they really had a life change or if hypnosis was a bunch of BS. So I think, one day, I got to tell you this, one day I get a call from a guy from CBS TV. Now they're going to make this reality TV show, and it's going to be a group of hypnotists on it. And then at the end of the show, they're going to hypnotize every viewer to stop smoking or to lose weight or to let go of stress and tension. So they asked me if it could be done. So of course I said it could be done. But now I read them the Riot Act. I said, listen, you can do it, but there's going to be a certain percentage of people that are going to be so highly influenced, the triggered somnambulists or whatever you want to call them, the deep subjects, whatever you want to call them, that some people are going to either drop on the floor, someone might not come out of hypnosis, someone might have an ab-reaction because losing weight, that weight was a secondary protection for them, and there's some emotional void that they're covering up because of the medication of foods. So I said to them, there will be a certain percentage of people that are going to have a problem with this. And I said, you could do that because I'll go to court with their lawyers and I'll get paid a lot of money to prove what you did was actually a little bit dangerous for the general public. We all know hypnotherapy should be conducted in a clinical safe environment. You know what I'm saying? So I recorded the conversations and all that stuff. But anyway, because I like to document what I say. And even if 1% had a problem with it, had an ab reaction or got hurt or killed, that's still, thousands of people when you're talking about millions. I think hypnosis does need to be respected myself. What do you think?
No, I absolutely do. And I think what's quite interesting is that you do both the stage stuff and the more, when I say the more serious, the actual clinical, the scientific stuff as well. And you seem to marry the two together really well.
Yes.
So the stuff which I've seen you do on the radio stuff tends to be the more fun, and also the basketball halftime shows. It's the outlandish, make people fall in love with the brute. You know what I mean? That kind of, I'm not going to say nonsense, but that kind of fun stuff. And then, okay, here's a question for you then. So you do all the scientific stuff as well. Mm-hmm. Do you think that stage hypnosis makes it harder for hypnotherapists to come across as more credible when there's the whole stage kind of stuff going on at the same time? I know that's a slightly unfair question because you do both sides, but from somebody who doesn't understand hypnosis, when you ask them about hypnosis, they will generally say, don't make me act like a chicken, don't make me sort of do this and that. Because hypnosis over here, especially in America as well, it's very much mixed up with magic. So you get a lot of magicians doing hypnosis. There's a lot of spirals. There's a lot of look into the eyes, look around, don't look around the eyes, and that kind of stuff. So do you think that there's a big sort of misunderstanding from the general public about what hypnosis, or the difference between maybe hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and the difference between the two actually is?
Well, I will be completely 100% honest with you. And I think that many stage hypnotists, and I'm a stage hypnotist too, many stage hypnotists have damaged the understanding of hypnosis by doing things that were maybe way out there or too sexual.
Right. Yes, I mean, I've seen that. Yeah.
There was a guy. His name was Travis. I won't give his last name, but he was in Southern California back when I was there in the 80s. Now, in the old days, there were very few hypnotists. There wasn't even a show in Las Vegas for many, many years, man, until some of the stage hypnotists, 10, 15 years ago or whatever, started going in there. But when you're doing stuff that torments people, embarrasses the hell out of them, or is sexually invasive, that damages the credibility of hypnosis.
Yeah.
This guy was having women have orgasms in their chair. Yeah. And it was, it was pretty degrading for some of these people. So I'll never forget, I was at his show. It was at P.I. McFly's. And I used to watch some of those stage hypnotists when I learned, like Pat Collins and a bunch of other people, in my area. So I'll never forget this. So he brings this girl up, this nice girl, onto the stage. She's already got her hypnotized. She's entourage, a group of subjects. He puts her in a hypnosis. He says, now I'm going to show you, she's going to have an orgasm right there. Now her mother's in the audience. Her mother's pleading and begging to him, please take my daughter out of hypnosis. Please don't do this to her. And what's he do? He points to the lady and he says, get the, I don't know if you can cuss on this thing. Can I cuss on this thing? Yeah. He goes, this is my show. You get the fuck out of here. To the mother of this girl. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but that guy's an asshole. So he did that, and then he did the orgasm, humiliated her. And I've seen those kinds of things happen. Now, I've seen great stage hypnotists that do fun, creative things. I mean, when I did the NBA halftime shows, I hadn't become American Idol stars. I hadn't become Britney Spears, Madonna, Elvis Presley, classical ballerinas, Gangnam style dancers, piano players, rock drummers. So I have them do kind of fun, creative things. And then at the end of each NBA show, I tuned them up in front after the show in the little back room when I was going to remove those suggestions. I tuned them up to remove their fears and increase their confidence and joy in their lives. Or if they were students, if I was doing NCAA Division I basketball in college, I tuned them up to have greater focus and concentration and a longer, stronger access to their long-term memory when they're taking tests. Of course, you don't see that because that's the way I did it. Yeah. Now, I wasn't paid to do that, but I'm a big believer that you can do entertainment and creativity.
Yeah.
And you can talk about hypnosis and how it's used to change people's lives. When I did my shows back in the 80s, and I used to do some things that were a little outrageous. I stopped doing those things because that's how you learn. You learn what's the right thing. I wanted to be known as having integrity and honesty. And that's why I got a lot of these shows, because people would say, you show a certain amount of integrity and honesty in what you do. So they'd call me back to do other shows. But the fact is, when I'd go out there, I'd go out wearing a suit, man, most of the time, a suit and tie. I didn't go out there, and once in a while I had a glittery shirt on as the big flamboyant entertainer. But most of the time I went out there just the way I'd be seeing the client doing therapy in those days. And I'd say, I'm Tom Silver. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and I want to thank you all for being here at the show. My motivation is changing people's lives. I talked about using hypnosis to lose weight, stop smoking, remove stress and fears. You know why? Because a certain amount of those people came to see me for hypnotherapy. Now, when you talked about those radio shows, check this out. I was doing radio shows around the United States, and sure, I was doing some fun stuff and even removing fears and phobias and showing past life regression and all that stuff, and talking about hypnosis used to overcome obstacles that stand in the way of your health and happiness and success. Sometimes after those radio shows, I was doing 3 mornings of radio. I'd be seeing 17 to 18 clients a day, cash paying clients, doing half-hour sessions, having a ton of dough. I mean, the big thing was, where do I hide all this money before I leave, you know? Because it was like all this cash stuff. But the fact is, if you do it right, demonstrational or entertainment hypnosis could be an amazing forefront to market and promote who you are and what you do.
Because I've seen that on one of your videos. In fact, just a little thing here. Somebody's trying to buy your DVDs of shock hypnosis and instant inductions, but the DVDs are currently unavailable. Can they get them anywhere? Are they on download or anything?
I think Vimeo has some of that stuff out there. Check on Vimeo. If not, send me an email, tom@tomsilver.com, tom@tomsilver.com. You know, and I'm open to communicate and talk to people in our field. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Orman was so great because I hung around Orman McGill for 10 years. And believe me, Orman, a lot of people wanted to get to know Orman, but he liked that I was doing work in Asia and Taiwan and bringing it around the world. So we became close friends. But I'm a big believer that if I teach a course, my students could call me anytime. I'll do Zoom set. Not everything is ching, ching, you know, money, because I don't give a damn about all that stuff. My goal has always been to elevate the science of hypnosis so it will become accepted. But you need accurate, higher education in the fundamental process of neurophysiological hypnotherapy. See, we're not just a hypnotist, we're actually neurotechnologists, really, what we do when we're doing hypnotherapy. So, like I said, I always believe that when someone has trained with me or worked with me or whoever, even people I don't know, I'm always open to be there because I think that's what it's about. We need to work together, integrate together instead of everyone having separate camps. This is my school, this is my training. I'm going to put you down because I want this and I want the students in to see me. I think there's got to be a lot of things that hopefully will be changed so we can actually work together instead of compete against each other.
No, I very much agree because I've moved more away from hypnosis and I do something called IEMT, and I've very much, you know, it's very much my kind of philosophy. I have Facebook groups. I do things like this. I don't get paid for anything like this to kind of share knowledge. But the one thing which you were mentioning there, which I really want to get into now, you say that you have this respect of the science side of hypnosis. So did that come through your training? Did it come afterwards? And what do you believe the science of hypnosis is? And what do you think are like the fundamentals of the scientific side of hypnosis really are and what people should know?
Okay. So number one, I went through the year program at HMI. I started developing and testing methods. I became I would just call myself a scientific tester. Because I didn't want to dilute my mind with, I do a little NLP, I do some Erickson, I do some of the Omni School or the Capasonian or NGH or all these other things. I didn't want to have all these theories running through my head. Yeah. Because I was on a mission of exploration. I've always been that way. The only certification I ever really received was from that school. Because to me, having, you know, and I used to buy certificates when I graduated the school like everyone else. Let's have a certificates on the wall so people think that I'm really smart. You know what I mean? So I started advancing as I was doing hypnosis around the world. When I was doing forensic hypnosis, hypnotizing prisoners against their will for the Taiwan Department of Defense and the Secret Service, I was learning by experience, because I had handcuffed, shackled prisoners, military procurement officers, colonels, and some generals coming in. And I had to hypnotize them against their will to get the truth out of them through an interpreter in a foreign language. So no one's going to teach you that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so if you get the chance of experiencing something that you've never done, go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen is you might not be as successful as you might have hoped to be. In other words, get the word failure out of your damn vocabulary. You don't fail. We succeed. Small, medium, and largest successes. Thomas Edison approach. Every time I do something, I learn from the outcome of what I'm doing when I'm tuned into doing it now. I don't think of the end result. So, God dang, what was the question?
So basically, what's the principles of the scientific side?
Okay. Yeah. So as I was working, I started to always think, well, there's a piece of the puzzle missing in this thing, because everybody puts hypnosis in a psychic field instead of a scientific field. But yet people were trained in biofeedback. Biofeedback is a reaction to the process we call hypnosis. You know what biofeedback is? Galvanic skin response. It's monitoring the nervous system within the body. It's actually monitoring. If I was to say what this nervous system it's really monitoring is the internal nervous system we call the autonomic nervous system. So it monitors your heart rate, your body temperature, the pulse rate, the blood circulating through the body. So what does hypnosis do? The state of hypnosis lowers the activity in the autonomic nervous system. And if we think of the sympathetic nervous system with stress hormones, cortisols, acids, epinephrines, adrenalines, that's an amplified system. When an athlete is playing a sport, they're in an amplified nervous system. They're in a heightened sympathetic nervous system. When a person has stress or anger or fear, they're in a heightened sympathetic nervous system, which puts too much pressure sometimes on the organs within the body. So I started thinking about what frequencies or states of hypnosis are changing the various nervous systems. So as I kept trying to fine tune that to find what we might call the holy grail, I was into biofeedback quite a bit. And biofeedback was monitoring physiological changes in the body, in the nervous systems, from the spinal cord to the peripheral outer nervous system to all the internal nervous systems. And then I started thinking, well, biofeedback could be a secondary reaction to changing brainwave activity. That's when I got into EEG. This is one of my training manuals that I teach. So you see these anesthesiologists in Holland?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I was teaching them how to go into hypnosis to remove physical sensation so they can lower the amount of anesthesia or analgesics they give their patients during stomach cancer surgeries, because some of the patients were dying of full-blown stomach cancer because the blood was dripping back into their body and the anesthesia would actually stifle or affect their immune system. Sometimes it would take weeks or months for their immune system to stimulate back up. So I started thinking about it, and I started experimenting with EEG, electroencephalograph. And then I started realizing, this is it, man. This was it for me. Brainwave frequencies, changing brainwaves. And I started experimenting. And as I was experimenting and really experimenting with it, I was creating theories. I even created a brainwave frequency chart. Check that out. I don't know if you can see it. Of the brains, of how the mind operates on various frequencies. And when you think about it, the mind operates like a television set. Really, when you really think about it, like a television set. I'm simplifying it because a television set has frequency and activity. The activity is a volume, the dynamic activity of the audio state of that frequency.
Yes.
And our mind operates on frequencies and activities within those frequencies. So over the years, I started testing hundreds of people with EEG and biofeedback and finding that there was a certain relationship between hypnosis and altering brainwave patterns and frequencies. Now, you know meditation, right?
Yep.
Yeah, do you meditate?
I do some. I do a lot of ASMR stuff, which I find quite interesting. I do a lot of guided visualizations. I like body scan and stuff like that. So I do those. So I do the guided ones at home. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me tell you a scientific fact, which I learned from some of the neuropsychologists that I've worked with over the years.
Okay.
And that is, and you guys, you'll like this too, everyone listening, because this is really cool. That's why I like neuroscience, because the changes of the activity and the stimulation of suggestions, whether it's hetero one to another or auto suggestion, will actually stimulate changes in the limbic system, stimulating or destimulating various neurochemicals that go from our brain into our body. I mean, this is real powerful stuff. This is really where we should be going. We should be going into the incorporation of the practice of hypnosis in medicine, in medical science, because that really will be the game changer. And when you think about it, in the 17 and 1800s, almost everyone who was a mesmerist or magnetist, using the influence of various suggestions to influence changes in the physiology or the neurology, they were all top medical doctors. Come on, man. Dr. James Braid, he was a doctor, Scottish doctor.
So let me ask you then, where would you like to see hypnosis more integrated into traditional medicine, and what kind of benefits do you think could bring about?
Well, I think the more we communicate hypnosis in a higher scientific linguistical way, and the more we understand hypnosis in a neurophysiological way and communicate that to the general public or people we work with in medicine or psychiatry or psychology or in the healing arts, the more that it will advance. But for it to advance, we have to stop using words that to me are confusing in this computer technology way, because this is a technology. The brain is a technology. The brain is an auto dual processing computer. And I think it's important that we start to understand it in a higher level of science, because and we can say in physical science or computer science, because in my training course, I'm just going to show this, and I'm not trying to promote anyone to go to my training course or any of that stuff, but in my manuals, I talk about different areas of the brain and how they can be influenced through hypnosis, and I talk about the various nervous systems within the brain and the body that can be influenced in a positive, curative way through hypnosis. So the fact is, hypnosis in medicine is necessary now more than ever. So because it's an agent that can create the greatest opportunity for health and healing prior, during, and after medical procedures.
That's what I was getting to. Is it because I know, I don't know if you want to go into this, but I can remember watching, it was when your mother was having, if you don't mind me mentioning, she had cancer, and I can remember you were doing visualizations with her. Not only did she get longer, but she had quality of life as well.
2 years longer than the diagnosis.
Yeah. And
check this out, and it's no lie. I don't need to hide this. I have an amazing quality of life. I'm in a beautiful marriage. I'm grateful every single day. I try to be of service to people in many areas of neuroscience as well as in everyday life. But, I was diagnosed 14 years ago with advanced aggressive prostate cancer. You kind of subtly mentioned that. And I was given a prognosis of 5 years to live. I was given a prognosis of 5 years to live. But what the doctors didn't realize is I used my mind. I used this mental technology to work with me. Now, it's been 13 years. 13 years since I was given 5 years to live. I had 8.5 weeks of radiation. I was told during the radiation I'd be weak and tired, and I'd be sleeping after the radiation for months and months and months, or weeks or whatever. They radiated the prostate and my stomach because they said it had spread.
Wow.
After the 8.5 weeks of radiation, a week, and I looked at the doctor, Dr. Song, radiology. I said, it's not going to happen to me, man. I said, that might be your statistics, but I don't buy into your belief system. Think about it. Placebo could also work against you if you believe what the doctors tell you and you buy into the reality of a termination of your life or your quality of life. So anyway, after 8.5 weeks of intense radiation, I did opening night at the Staples Center, big arena in LA, opening night for the Lakers and Clippers, playing an opening night NBA halftime show, and I'm running around the court like a goddamn 18-year-old. I had more energy after the radiation than before. A month later, I went to Holland. I taught Roy Martina, a doctor in Holland, and his students taught them hypnosis. So remember, what I think and I project within my own mind and my imagination or my visual impressions will actually affect the outcome of the success of what I believe.
I've got so many questions. Okay, so for your case example, what was it that you, because I presume you were doing a lot of self-hypnosis, you weren't having hypnotherapists work on you, if that's correct?
I was doing self-hypnosis. I don't like to have people dabble with my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I can't really refer too many people out there because there's so many different, there's just so much confusion still in training. But I was doing self-hypnosis and I was using neurofeedback, and I videotaped it. I videotaped a documentary of me the day before I went in for, when I was doing radiation and before I went in for a radical salvage surgery because the cancer had spread 5 years later. So I taped myself giving direct literal suggestion into the subconscious biocomputer, which after the surgery, my healing rate of robotic surgery was enhanced, I'd say probably at least 1,000%. I had so much quality of healing so quickly. It was astounding, you know, so I use it on myself, you know.
And I'm just interested because obviously, you know, there's lots of different types of hypnosis, but you're using sort of direct suggestion. And what kind of stuff were you actually saying to yourself? Is it, I will heal, I will get better, or was it just, you were just trying to relax yourself so your body could heal? Or was it a combination of the two?
Well, remember, you just said I will. So all I will is future based. So it doesn't affect what's going on in your present state of reality. Will is was past, and will is future. So right. So I'd be giving, like, for example, God, I wish I had that video because I'd show it to you. Maybe if we do another one, I'll show you. I'll show you me doing it when I was doing radiation, man. But I was saying, I would put myself into a low brainwave frequency state of receptive hypnosis. And remember, hypnosis is physical muscle relaxation and a state of increased focus, awareness, focus, concentration. So I'd be putting myself into hypnosis and I'd say, my body's getting healthier because my immune system's getting stronger. My immune system's getting stronger and my body's getting healthier. My body's getting healthier. My immune system's getting stronger every day. Every day, my immune system's getting stronger and my body's getting healthier. I'd repeat those over and over and over again.
Right.
Simple, direct, literal suggestion. Now, visual imagery and all that stuff is all cool stuff. I use those things, but that is coloring the imagination in the cognitive intellectual mind. Because if I'm giving you a visual impression, you're thinking about that visual image or impression. But I believe the subconscious is the most simple, direct computer. Just put it in, download it in, and then access it to go become active. So I believe the best suggestions are the repetition of certain words, because that will amplify the effect and the power of the word. Strong immune system, stronger immune system, stronger immune system every day, strong, powerful immune system. My body's getting healthier. My immune system's stronger every day and in every way.
Wow.
See,
and would this
like
be stuff which, because I've created my own tracks before. So I'd put it to, you know, background music, going to be me speaking to me, which is a bit weird if you drift off. But so would you record it and play it back, or would you just do it? Would you just do it?
I did all mine live, but you could record it and play it back. But I did it live. I did it every day, a number of times a day. And I know from physiologically what it feels like to get into a theta or a delta state.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to let go, to lower all the electrical currents from the neurons in the spinal cord, to lower the amplification of electricity in the body. And once you know exactly what it feels like, then you can duplicate it. But how many people in the field of hypnotism, even people doing hypnosis, say, I can't be hypnotized? Well, I just can't be hypnotized. Then they don't realize they don't really know what hypnosis is. Because if I say I can't be hypnotized, then that to me is one of the most incorrect things. Every time I've been influenced by anything in reality, influenced to the news, influenced to buy a car, influenced by a doctor, influenced by words that people say or things that I read. I've been influenced, and hypnosis is an enhanced state of influencing somebody. And we can call that hypersuggestibility or hypersensitivity. Anytime you watch a movie and you're emotionally engaged in that movie, you're in a hypnotized state.
Of course.
You're in a state of emotional impression, creating an impression within yourself.
I think people think that going into hypnosis or not going into hypnosis is a sort of a control thing. Like, you can't hypnotize me. I can remember I've had quite a lot of dental work, and weirdly, I don't mind it being done. So I've had it done so much, I've got, it looks like I've got a good smile, but there's a lot of work behind that, trust me. And I had an implant done. Now, when they do an implant, they first of all take the tooth out, they let the gum heal. And then what they do is they have to put basically the socket into your jawbone. And they do that with a drill. So they're drilling into bone, and it vibrates, and then they seal it all up and everything like that. And so I hypnotized myself. I literally just put myself in a calm state. Obviously, I was all numbed up. I'm not that crazy where I'm like, no. So I just basically put myself in a calm state. And several times the dentist had to open my mouth because I was snoring, I was sleeping, I was drifting off. And he said that he's never seen anyone go to sleep before whilst doing this. And I was like, oh, you're just gentle, flattery will get you over. And but he said also you had very, very little blood loss. He says when people are really stressed, they tend to lose a lot more blood when they're doing any kind of invasive procedure. So he said he was really surprised at the, excuse me, to say he was how deep the work was, about how little blood was actually lost during the procedure. And my face and everything was just so relaxed. He just said it made everything, because the amount of times when I'm doing, dentistry, the amount of times you bite me and stuff when I'm trying to work on people, but he just said, you were just so relaxed. And my healing time, when I went back the week later, he just said, you've healed amazingly well. And so I do put that down to the fact that I do think we were saying sort of before, during, and post maybe surgery or things like that, because I know there's a lot of stuff in hypnosis. I know a woman called Sonia Richards, actually, I think she's watching tonight, actually, who does hypnobirthing, which I think is a really interesting thing, because a lot of, I presume it's the same in America, but when you're pregnant here, I've never been pregnant, and you tell people you're not yet, you never know what's going on now, but when you tell people you're going to have a baby, you get all the horror stories from usually obviously other women about how painful everything birth is. And I think that has a massive impression and a predictor for yourself when you're thinking about giving birth. And it makes you, and I know, midwives and stuff, and they say that one of the biggest things we do is relax the person. The more relaxed they are, the less blood loss, the less tense the body is, the more the baby can just literally come out, because I think it takes about 30 seconds to give birth or something. So I've heard, and so I'm just joking before I get complaints. So I really do think that hypnosis can make, massive impacts, especially with, we've got a mental health crisis everywhere. And there's an awful lot of stress. And I don't think being worried about something helps. I think that some stress is good if it motivates you to do something, but just stress long term, I think, can lead to, now obviously I'm not medical in any way, but I do, from my understanding, long-term stress can lead to things like stomach ulcers, high blood pressure, hypertension, and even possibly the development of some cancers. But that's just my understanding of it. But I've got a couple of things.
Okay. Can I say one thing?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course.
Okay, and then let's get into some questions of people or whatever. What I wanted to say is what hypnosis is doing. Let's just look at it a little bit scientifically. And again, this is just based on my observations, folks, on my observations and understanding through what I have learned by experience and experimenting over 38 years. So you don't have to take anything as the gospel. This isn't the gospel according to Tom. It's just my impressions, my philosophy, okay?
Yeah.
I think it's important that we learn the philosophies of the trainers versus just techniques. Because if you understand what the intention is, then it fulfills the ability to perceive the technique and the philosophy behind the methodology.
Yes.
But when you think about relaxation under hypnosis, what is going on scientifically? What's going on? And I'm going to use the word tone, because that's what the medical doctors call it. They call it a sympathetic and parasympathetic tone.
Yeah.
And we can think of a tone as a high tone, or a high volume, or a low tone and a low volume.
Yeah.
So when you get into that state of hypnosis relaxation, what's occurring is the sympathetic nervous system, the adrenaline system, the stress system becomes de-amplified. It becomes more relaxed. The tone goes down. As the tone goes down, the circulatory and respiratory system, what we call the autonomic nervous system, slows down. Heart starts beating less. Remember, the slower the heart beats, the less blood flows quickly through the circulatory system. So the more relaxed the body becomes, the more the temperature of the body goes to its normal normal state. The more that the heart slows down, the more the circulation within the bloodstream slows down and relaxes, and the less bleeding occurs. And anesthesiologists finally realized that when they were going to a car accident, and they go out and go, oh, this person's bleeding. There's a lot of blood going on. We're losing them. They already then created the anticipatory anxiety. So if you lower the pre-anticipatory expectation or anxiety of the event, you lower a imagined experience from being negative to being positive. And anytime that, because I have to go in for blood tests every few months, and I get these procedures where they administer medicine into my stomach and stuff, all that stuff. I love to watch them, drawing blood.
Oh, we just got a pause on there. Tom, we're just waiting for you to come back in. Sorry, guys. Oh, okay, here we go.
Sorry.
So
okay.
sorry, I just froze then. You're saying you enjoy seeing withdrawing blood. That's what.
Well, I enjoy the experience of lowering the sensation. See, if I call it pain already is a negative power word. But if I just call it a physical sensation, I've already de-amplified the expectation of the end result. Yeah. And I think it's important that you understand that when they're drawing blood, I relax my whole nervous system, so I get to enjoy the experience without thinking the suggestion of it's going to hurt. I'm going to feel pain. And I think that's really important. It's important the words we say in the influenced state of hypnosis to our patients, because the words we say, if we use a negative power word, you're going to amplify the effect of that negative word that they're coming in to overcome the effect of that feeling.
Yeah, just Kim in the chat here was saying, this is true. She's a vaccinator. That's a volunteer person who works in vaccinations. And here all the time, you'll feel a scratch, and they feel it. And they will feel a scratch and they'll feel it. So I do the opposite and mostly say, is it done yet? And I had the exact same experience when I went for my vaccination. The first one was saying, you'll feel a scratch, you'll feel a scratch. Then other people just being like, oh, what are you doing today? Okay, see you later. I'm like, oh, okay, it's done. Which is,
Right, because you are lowering the expectation of a negative emotional or physical experience. It's like I saw a dentist, a friend of mine, Andrew, a dentist that I used to see. I was in a networking group. So I'm going in to get a procedure. You talked about dentistry. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna administer Novocaine. So he's got the needle there. Now the needle is a trigger. So people see the needle and they're already triggering the fear of the pain. They're already amplifying and feeling the effect before it's even administered. They're expecting it to hurt. So he says to me, he goes, okay, I'm going to give you some Novocaine, but you might feel some burning pain. And I said to him, Andrew, number one, I'm not going to experience that because I don't have to let your words affect me. But I said, you shouldn't tell your patients that. I said, he goes, why not? I goes, because you're already then giving them an expectation of an anxiety, of a negative experience. I said, tell them that you might feel a little bit of a tingling sensation. See, so you already de-amplify the effect. The scratching, the young lady saying scratching, that's excellent, because what you're doing is you're changing the effect. So then they're already expecting something different. So I said, so just tell them that they might feel, they might feel a little tingling or a sensation, because pain is a sensation, really. It's just a physiological experience. And then so then he administers it. Then at night he calls me and he says, I'm calling to see how much pain you're in. I said, Andrew, don't call your patients to see how much pain they're in. I said, I'm calling you just to see how comfortable you're feeling. Change the word. If they're not feeling that comfortable, they're still feeling comfortable. See what I'm saying? So change it. Someone says, thank you. Don't say no problem or no worry. Say you're welcome or my pleasure. Orman would say thank you back. But the words we say will create subtle impressions, strong negative impressions in a person's mind that will maybe later on affect them. Any other questions from people?
I agree. Yes. Sorry, just losing a little bit there. No, I've got some things to get through. And somebody here, so Phil, he wants to know, can you tell us more about something about ERT? Now, I'll just, before we get into this, ERT was something which I watched. Again, I watched this online and I started using it. I then bought the product, did the training. But this was something which it looked sensational. And I thought, what's this?
Yeah.
Then I used it and I was like, ooh, because you use it in terms with the language and stuff as well. And I also did an induction and used the language from the session as well. So ERT, emotional replacement therapy, what is it? How did you come up with it? And how does it work, basically?
Well, I looked at it this way. As I was doing my own internal research on things and testing things, I look at every habit. Everything we do has some type of emotional attachment.
Yes.
So where's the emotion? It's in the subconscious. What's an addiction? Addiction is some type of emotional attachment that stimulates an uncontrollable desire to do something that maybe even if you don't want to do it, the emotion is stronger than the will to not do it, right?
Yeah.
So the emotional part of our computer or our mind is to me located in the lower areas of brain activity. And we can call that lower area the subconscious, lack of better words, meaning it's an area below the conscious part of the mind, which is the external part of the mind. That's part of the frontal lobal area, the intellection and cognitive, intellectual, analytical part of the mind. So I started thinking that every habit somebody has an emotional attachment, or your habit might be stress, which is all an emotional, or anger or fear, which is all emotional, or depression, which is all emotional. But what triggers it? It's triggered through the thought. So if I have something programmed into my subconscious mind and a thought comes up of that thing that's programmed in, that thought will trigger like me opening up a file of something stored in the subconscious. It'll open up a software program. Yeah. So I thought about that for a while. As I was working with clients, I started to think, what am I actually doing? Because I'm doing these things out of the experience of practicing things that I never learned from anybody. But how can I make it something that could be fundamentally learned by other people, that they can apply it in their own orchestration of their processes or understandings of hypnosis? So once I realized that, I thought to myself, well, if a habit has an emotional foundation in the subconscious, what if I remove the...
Oh, we just got you, it's just stuck one bit. Just wait for it to come back in. Technology today.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I live in a field, folks. I live in a forest, sorry. So it's going to happen.
It's okay. So I think you're going to say if you're going to remove the emotion, I believe that's what it was.
Well, so what I believe is you remove the emotion from whatever the habit is, and you alter and change that negative to a positive, and change a habit from a negative to a positive. But by the process of ERT, emotional replacement therapy, which I teach in my courses, people have asked me to come out with a book or a full video training on it, which, hopefully I'll have time to do eventually, because I got to pass this on while I'm still here. The fact is, if you can remove the emotion from the thought, like heroin addiction. If I think about having a shot or smoking heroin, but there's no more emotional attachment to that thought, I've lowered all the neurochemistry. I've broke through the neurochemical reaction to that thought, meaning I've shut off the adrenaline. I've shut off the pre-expectation of dopamine. I shut off the chemical attachments, because if you have a thought but there's no more emotional attachment, you let go of 90% or 100% of the physiological experience at that point.
Mm.
I get excited about this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in ERT, that if I can desensitize you and shut off the production of that chemical, and it could be stress chemical, the stress hormone cortisol, or it could be the anticipation of this great experience that they might call having a drink of alcohol, or smoking a cigarette, or snorting cocaine, or doing heroin, or going to gamble. Because once you think about gambling, when I work with gambling addicts, you already see their physiology change. You already see their nervous system amplified. They become excited about it. They become emotionally attached to it. So with ERT is through the physical body, I remove and desensitize the physiological expectation or experience. I delete that out of the body. And then we change the habit, and then I install a new emotional stimulation to the new healthy habit to override the old behavior. Remember, all we're doing is just putting in a new operating system. So I delete the old operating system, and we download a new operating system that they reinforce till it becomes their new process of program of living their life in a different way.
And if nobody's seen this, there are multiple demonstrations on your YouTube channel. You essentially, are you using the emotive response for the technical term? So you're bringing up the desire, the problem, into the person's arm at 100%. They're then letting go of like
right.
50, 20, 10.
Well, what we're doing a desensitization from the greatest to the lowest, but it's got to be done correctly. See, that's the whole thing. If you just try something like that and you don't do it correctly, someone's going to have an emotional explosion.
Yeah.
See, I'm removing the trauma of a person who was tortured or raped.
Yeah.
And if I don't do it in a certain systematic way, they will bring up that buried landmine and they will have an explosion. And then you got to deal with this big, strong abreaction. Now, some therapists believe, I trained a lady from Indonesia, top trainer in Indonesia, and she believed if someone didn't leave her office screaming and crying and angry and wanting to explode or beat her up, that the therapy wasn't successful. I don't believe that. I believe that the more you're able to remove trauma from the body and from the brain, from the mind, the more you're able to remove trauma without them having the experience of that trauma, the more of a pleasurable, safer experience they will have. So it's kind of really important is not just the steps to the process, but how is that process worded for the greatest amount of success with the least amount of any discomfort. See what I'm saying? It's like anesthesia.
Yeah.
What now? When the doctors give anesthesia, that person is sure they've been desensitized from physical sensation. They've lowered the amount of pain, and they put them into a sleep state. But are they really completely unconscious? No, they're still aware. They might not be able to experience the effect of what's going on, but there is still a certain amount of their mind aware of what's going on in the operating room. That's why doctors are changing the words they say. That's why stroke patients, people are starting to understand they're not in a comatose state where there's no awareness going on. They just don't have control of all the different motor responses or the senses that other people have, but they still could be aware of it. Perfect example, someone's a stroke patient's in the house and the relatives come in and they're all sad and they're crying and all that stuff. A lot of times you'll see tears coming from that person that's in that stroke because they're feeling the pain of their pain. So it's important that we realize that subconscious mind is always active. It's either receiving or it's transmitting in dreams or it's a combination of both, but it's always in an active and semi-responsive state. Make sense?
Oh, absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question around the brain. And this is what I ask a
Yeah.
lot of hypnotherapists and different therapists. In hypnotherapy, we kind of simplify the brain as conscious and subconscious. Now, I know you know a lot about sort of neuroanatomy and sort of obviously the limbic system. Obviously, we have different parts of the brain. We have obviously the frontal lobes, we have the limbic system, and then we have like the R complex, which is obviously in the center of the brain, which is the reactive. And they all work on different chemicals. Like I know the reactive is much more to do with dopamine and reward, and the external, the cerebrum, is much more to do with creativity and serotonin. So when you're talking about the conscious and the subconscious, are you talking about specific brain regions? Are you talking about the frequency? Can you just go a little bit further into about when you're talking about the subconscious and the conscious and what that relates to in neuro anatomical sense?
Okay, well, let's look at it this way. I'll try to keep this as simple as I can, okay? Because I don't want to get too technical, because you lose too many people when you get too technical.
Okay.
But I want to keep it scientifically. Okay, so when we're talking about conscious and subconscious, we're just talking about geographical regions. We're just talking about certain areas of activity. The brain is always active. There's always electrical current running through the brain. There's always different activities in all the little areas of the cortex, as well as in the inner workings of the brain itself, and the hypothalamic limbic system and all that stuff. So we're talking just upper brain activity tends to relate to the intellectual areas of cognitive processes. And they usually, doctors talk about the frontal lobe area here as that area. Okay, and the subconscious is the area of the brain that is operating our physiological changes in the body. The subconscious is operating on an unconscious level, when it's operating the functions of breathing, of blinking, of all the different circulatory systems and things like that. We're not forcing that to happen. Do you agree with that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, but that same area of the brain can also, in a frequency enhanced state that we call hypnosis, can also be influenced through suggestion by the hypnotherapist or the motivator or the psychologist or whoever, is doing it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So those are two general areas. So when people sometimes in hypnosis talk about, well, the conscious, I work with the conscious and the unconscious, they're incorrect. They're working with the subconscious, because the subconscious operates unconscious body activity and brainwave activity and nervous system activity and spinal cord activity and adrenal gland activity. But the part of the mind that is accepting the suggestion could also be conscious and subconscious working together. And I think a lot of times hypnotherapists just deal with the unconscious mind. I mean, well, what we call the subconscious mind. They deal with just that without training people to think differently. Mm. How can a hypnotherapist remove my fear of flying when every time I'm thinking about flying, I'm thinking about the fear of flying? So you've got to change the autosuggestive patterns of the recipient, the client that you're working with. Now, something else I want to talk about, which is interesting, and I'll give this information out in this because I like you, and this is really interesting. And most hypnotherapists, I think 99% of the hypnotherapists, I won't even say that. I'll just say many people in our field don't ever use this word. And that's because maybe we all haven't studied medical science and see how medical science or neuroscience relates to what we do in our field of endeavors that we might call hypnosis or hypnotherapy or hypnosis therapeutics. I like to call it that. So we talk about the conscious, the unconscious, and subconscious. So what part of the brain are we, or what part of the activity are we not talking about? I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you that right now. What part, Matt or Matthew, what part of that area have I not mentioned?
I'm just thinking. So we've got the
30 seconds on the clock.
So we've got we've got the conscious, the subconscious. Some people say also the unconscious.
Right.
I don't know.
Seconds.
I would have
10
to
seconds
pass.
on the clock, folks. 10 seconds.
I will have.
Oh, time's up.
The only other part I know would be obviously the corpus callosum. I don't know if that's where you're going, which is the band of fibers, but no.
Stop right there. Stop. You see, this is a physical signal. Stop.
Okay.
Okay. So, let's be exact on what we're talking about. What is conscious memory?
Well, conscious memory is, I would equate conscious memory to short-term memory, the working memory, the here and now, the me that's speaking to you on Zoom, that's looking at the chat, that's monitoring stuff. So I would class that as a very transient, basically what's going on right now.
Okay. What would be subconscious memory?
So subconscious memory, so a lot of memories that come back don't come back as memories, they come back as reactions and emotions. And so I would say your subconscious memory is much more to do with, your formative years, your growing up, your long-term memory, and also it can be repressed memory, because I work with a lot of trauma, so people don't have direct access to it till you go finding it. So essentially, I would call your subconscious as your not episodic, your semantic, basically, so you don't have actual access, conscious access to it, a lot of it, unless you're actually thinking about it. Because most people, as you're living your life, you're not really thinking about your long-term memories. You're responding to the stimulus that you're being presented with in the world. So I'd say your subconscious are basically how you've learned about the world, how you've created your map of the world.
Yeah, brilliantly stated. And the subconscious also is the files of your life that have been filed into the library. That can be accessed consciously, can be accessed through a trigger, can be accessed through hypnotherapy or psychotherapy or any of that stuff. Correct. I like that. That's excellent. Okay. So if I think about something that and I don't want you to look this up or anything. So there's another part of the mind that most of us don't talk about, and we really should talk about it because it's so damn cool and it's so damn true, and it is medical science. And that is, let's see, let me think here. Okay, so this morning when I woke up, my dog jumped on the bed and she was real happy to see me, and of course she wanted me to give her a little treat. And then my wife actually brought in a cup of coffee for me, which I was hoping she'd bring in that coffee. And I kind of stayed in the bed and I was drinking my coffee and stuff like that. And then later on, I got out of bed, I let the dog out and made it a second cup of coffee, which was cool. I went on the internet to see if I had gotten any information from you regarding today. I wanted to make sure that I'd be proactive and not reactive, to be here on time and everything else. And then I thought about the TV shows just to kind of figure out what I've been on, not out of ego, just because I just was curious. And I wrote this down and then I printed it up. Okay. So I'm talking about things that have happened in the past. Would you concur with that, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. So, I have talked about things that I was able to remember that I did this morning. Okay, that part of the mind is called the preconscious. So we have the conscious, we have the preconscious, we have the unconscious, and we have the subconscious. So the preconscious is memories, any memories that you can remember that can be activated through your conscious thoughts.
Okay.
Isn't that cool? And that's called the preconscious. And I think that's important that we know that in the field of hypnotism, just so we know that not all long-term memory is just all buried in the subconscious, because the things that I can remember going on in my life that I'm not in a suggestive state to trigger that memory is considered the preconscious part of the mind, which is right below the conscious geographically. And I find that interesting. So I find when I learn more about medical science and how it relates, or psychological science and how it relates to what we do, the more I feel empowered that I have a better understanding of what it is that I'm doing. Makes sense? Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I find that really exciting. Plus, everything we bring up under hypnosis or is influenced through suggestion under hypnosis might not be true memories, because we have something called confabulation.
Yes.
And if I think about the first girl I dated, I guarantee you I have already colored it many times with things that were not really the reality.
Yeah. Oh, and this is why, I've worked with a lot of people with trauma, and a lot of people haven't even witnessed the thing. They were in a different room or got told about it, and they've mentally constructed what they think it was or what it is. And so often when I'm trying to find like the sensitizing events, they're saying, but it didn't really happen. I was like, well, your brain doesn't record it. It's not a camera. It's an interpretation of the events through your filters,
Interpretation.
So, yeah. Yes. So all memory is fake.
Beautiful.
In fact, I heard something the other day that was saying like up to about 60% of your childhood memories just didn't happen. They just didn't happen. You just sort of constructed them as you look back. And this is what I find really interesting when you do sort of regression work, because like ERT and IEMT, and I suppose a lot of NLP and EMDR and stuff, when you go back and work on these sensitizing memories that have caused belief systems, which now, again, like I was saying, a lot of people, when it comes to motivation, should we say, when they think about wanting to do something like going to talk to a certain person or wanting to go for a job interview, whatever it might be, logically they know they can do it, but then they get this emotional response, which is automatic. And that response so it doesn't come back as memories of something that happened when you were 7 reading at school. It comes back as a feeling of, you can't do this. And it causes basically this internal conflict of, what's wrong with me. And so by doing techniques like this, you can actually go back and work on these sensitizing memories. And so therefore, when you're wanting to do something now, you're thinking about how you can do it, as opposed to having all this cognitive dissonance of why you shouldn't. So I think motivation and using skills like this for motivation, I don't believe in powering people up. I know a lot of that in hypnosis. It's very common, making people feel great and like the tone, because, the higher people go, the lower they will tend to fall. So I really believe in
balance.
Balance. Absolutely. So just making people feel okay and being able to do stuff, and by getting all these patterns, all these feelings, emotions and memories that haven't had some sort of negative and it doesn't even need to be that traumatic. It's the things that people have been through. It could just be something that a teacher mentioned once. And so I believe that when we have like the subconscious memories, we have certain memories that don't assimilate or integrate very well, and they're almost on their own. And so by doing things like EMDR, IEMT, ERT, it gets that memory and it reanalyzes it from the perspective of today, and it assimilates it into your general knowledge. And so these standout memories just become a memory, and you can actually learn from it.
Right. It becomes history versus staying emotionally attached to it.
Absolutely. That's it.
See what I'm saying? But the other thing is when you really think about that too, and we think about these responses, like you're going for an interview, we have these reflex responses, almost like this internal gut response that comes up. That could be this overwhelming anxiety. And then all of a sudden that can trigger the thought of, well, what if they don't like me? What if I say this wrong? What if I do that wrong? Yeah. So when you really think about it, the people that overthink and overanalyze tend to be people that will sabotage the goals that they create, because they will figure out a reason why it might not work versus getting the experience of getting into the action of it. And those are reflex responses that occur. We might have reflex emotional stimuli that comes up out of nowhere, because you don't have the memory, but you have the emotional attachment that comes up from that memory. And a reflex response could be, I'm driving in my car, a kid runs out in the road, and all of a sudden I stop, or I turn out of the way. I'm not thinking about doing that because it's that split second response. And that could be a reflex. So the emotion can also be kind of like that spontaneous reflex reaction.
Of course. And people will say, that's just me. But what I love about hypnosis and change work techniques is but it doesn't have to be. and you can try and force your way against it, such as like exposure therapy, and that can go wrong, or you can address the imprints. We don't have any final questions. I know we've gone way over. I knew that was going to happen. Now on an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you wanted? This has been absolutely fascinating. Do you have anything that you wanted to finish on? Anything that you didn't get a chance to say, or?
No, I would just want to say, I just said no, and that's not true. I always I analyze the way I speak and communicate. I want to say I think this was a great interview. I think we were talking from the heart. We're talking the truth about how we feel about things. I don't want to judge anybody on what they do, because I believe the results speak for themselves. So if you're having successes in what you do, man, more power to you, because that's the way it is. I believe in teaching people how to operate their minds in an effective, correct way. I am not my mind. I'm the operator of this mechanism. This is a mechanism. If I believe that every thought I think is the truth, then I become a slave to my mind, versus mastering the ability to not accept every thought as reality. I think that if I realize that I have the ability to tell my mind what to think, when to think, how to think, and when to stop thinking, when to shut up, then I have the ability to reach every goal and use everything I've learned from my past as history and experience to be different, and to take what happened in my past that I enjoy and to just simply disconnect from any emotional activities that occurred in my past. You can't bring it back. I can't bring back Uncle Harry, or if I had a father telling me I'm stupid and can't do anything. I don't. That's not real anymore. That's not alive anymore. That's just my imagination holding on to something that's no longer there. It's no longer real. It's history. So I believe the fact that today our discussion was really probably one of the best interviews or working with somebody I ever had. Wow. And I want to thank you so much for having me part of this group. And again, if you're going to put out my website or anything like that, I'm sure.
But it's just tomsilver.com, isn't it? Nice.
Tomsilver.com, absolutely. But I believe, use your mind to believe and perceive a reality you haven't created yet. And by your actions every day of getting out of a comfort zone into the uncomfortableness of being comfortable, that you will further your horizons and believe and perceive the truth that I have the ability to accomplish anything that I set my mind, my heart, and my actions to achieve. I'll leave with that.
Tom, this has been so good. Thank you so much. There's lots of messages and emails and stuff coming in. Thank you, Agatha. Thank you, Kim. Just people saying, absolutely fantastic interview. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. Basically, it's been a film length today. You've got your money's worth, and it was free. We'll still get complaints. But thank you so much, guys. If you want to put anything into the chat, please do so now, because we're going to close this down in about 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
You're not doing, have you got any trainings booked in or anything like that at the moment? Or?
Well, here, this is a good one. This is a second person suggestion. No, I did hear that you were probably thinking about setting something up for me later on in the future in the UK. So you see, that one, I created an impression. No, I'm teaching a course out here in Oregon, my scientific hypnotherapy course, which will also, there will be a teacher in there with me who is a medical doctor, one of the top surgeons in the medical field here in the United States. I believe in integrating medical science with neuroscience and what we call hypnosis. I might be doing a teaching in Malaysia this year, later this year, but really right now I'm just still working on fine tuning and moving ahead in methodology. Remember, what I teach last year, I don't teach today. We have to advance. Everything advances. Let's face it. I don't put a block of ice in my refrigerator anymore. We have refrigerated electrical cooling. So I think it's important we all continue to advance in our philosophies, in our methodologies, and through the experience of action, of practice, because that's how we get really good at finding out what's working better than something else.
I completely that's where agree. I'm at. Because I like I say, I teach IEMT, and where I've been doing it from before, it's really quite different to how I do it now. Although it's the same syllabus, the way I teach it and how I teach it and who I teach it to is very, and I've got quite a lot of people on here today who are IEMT. All the people who are IEMT trained as well, please do check out Tom's stuff, especially the ERT stuff, which is absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for the awesome interview. I trained with Tom and I'm still learning it, love it, and using ERT in my practice. And that's from Margarita?
Margarita from Canada. Margarita
Cabrera McDonald. She's got so many names right there.
And you know, Margarita, we can do Zoom anytime that you want me to fine tune you. Let me know. I'm there for you, man. You see, that's what it's about. That's the way we should be as teachers. We should be there to continue to elevate the awareness with our students. And if we come up with something new, out to present it to them.
Oh, absolutely. So in my Facebook group, because as you know, my other Facebook got hacked, but my new Facebook group, which I will let go of it soon. In fact, I did it. I was trying to go live, actually. I was doing a demonstration. I couldn't do it, but I put some of the video up. It's an hour and a half, actually. And I'm actually doing lots of sessions with people free of charge, just to put them, I'm going to put them into the trainings, but also just to put into the group. And I do believe that I've been through so many trainings where once you've done the training, you don't hear from the train. That's it, you know, once they've got the money there. And I've hated that. So I have WhatsApp groups, I have Facebook groups, I have email, I have Zoom, and I do a monthly Q&A just for my practitioners. And I always think that when somebody pays to do IEMT training, half the money's for the course, half the money's for after the course, you know, for basically the support and everything. Because the better that practitioners are, the more people they can work with, and that will come back. The more people who want to do the training as well. So it is like, you know, it's a financial incentive as well to get things out there. But also, if I want as many people as possible using IEMT. You know, it's just a
well, and on a humanitarian level, the more people that are putting into action, the more people that are getting well out there.
Yes, exactly, absolutely.
Whether they come back to you or not, the more people whose lives are changing, that will be a complete asset then to their family or things like that. And that to me that's what it's all about.
I completely agree. And this is when I thought about becoming a practitioner or a trainer. So I do some private sessions. It's mainly by referral and stuff, to be honest. But now I can train 100, 120 practitioners a year who can work with thousands of clients when I could only work with a few hundred. Tom, I could continue speaking, but
okay, let's go. We can always do another one.
We will set another one up soon. I'm going to say we're going to say goodbye to YouTube now. So thank you very much, YouTube. Tom, if you just stay on a sec, I'll just get rid of